So your question, please.
Yes. Why would you think that it's a specific risk in Taiwan, let's say, or maybe in the other way around? It's not. Why isn't the Taiwanese government somehow maybe it's just to provide a little bit of a cultural and I can't remember. Maybe it's not documented.
Okay. That's the reason why I ask every of you, if you want to ask a question, write it down on a piece of paper. So, Monique, do you want to answer the question or Fan?
Actually, I don't understand. I don't remember which one lecture that mentioned.
Everyone is trying it. It's in the democracy meeting. Because it's afraid Taiwan media become like a state media relationship.
Sorry.
State media.
I'm not sure.
You repeat, yeah.
Your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
It's like launching a suddenly the influence in Taiwan is afraid it's going to become the kind of state media relationship in China.
Okay. So I guess my point is, one of the fears among supporters of this anti-media monopoly movement in Taiwan is to see Taiwan's democracy being undermined through the kind of duplication of state media relationship, the PRC style that will occur in Taiwan. I'm just mentioning that this reflects some of the fears. But if you want to ask me if I think this will be the case, my answer will be as follows. My answer is no. I think it's unlikely to happen because of the liberal press traditions in Taiwan during the post-martial law years. Some of my friends who are currently working for media outlets that are owned by Tsai Ing-wen are very liberal-minded. As I said during my presentation, I talked to some of my friends, and they told me the first-hand inside story about their newsroom operations. They were not happy with what has happened. But I don't really think the PRC style state media relationship will ever occur in Taiwan because Taiwan has a young democracy. Taiwan is no longer the kind of authoritarian state during the martial law era. However, there are lots of problems. For example, the prospect of self-censorship on the part of the media, which are owned by Mr. Tsai's group, because of interest calculation. I can give you a recent example. Recently, New York Times ran a scoop story on how much money Wen Jiabao's family has owned. So it's a world scoop news about how Wen's family has been really become influential. It turns out that I know actually two of them during my time in Cambridge, well, after reading the news. But the crucial point is, after the scoop is released by New York Times, a majority of the Chinese news media actually make follow-up stories. But there are some exceptions, and some of them actually belong to part of the one of the TV stations owned by Mr. Tsai decided not to put this as a news item, simply because by doing so, I guess the news editor fears that his or her boss' interest will be in danger. The boss will not be happy.
So you think there's some sort of self-censorship?
Yes, and also in terms of, for example, news selection. When I was back to Taiwan during the previous presidential election, I watched a lot of China Times reports because in the hotel they only offer us this newspaper. And I discovered that there were, for example, of course there were often some balanced reports. You would hear voices from the three major candidates. But often there were also some news reports only interviewing those who fear that their interests would be endangered if Mr. Tsai, Dr. Tsai was elected. For example, these people include those who are involved in the tourism business. So the way the news is written, to me, as a former journalist, is very sensational. It's not a balanced report. So this is another example to show you that in terms of news selection, there might be some problems there. But in a nutshell, I really don't think the kind of PRC style state-society relationship, not the state-media relationship, will ever occur in Taiwan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next. Yes, please.
I'm Michael Hall. Would you agree, make it a question, that there is an element here of the shift in the journalistic culture towards a certain laziness? If you remember the debate, I think 2 or 3 years ago, with people like Nick Cohen weighing in, they pointed to the role of the agencies on two counts. One was the lazy acceptance of agency feeds, and the other was the acceptance of public relations handouts from industry. Now this is a different dimension from the wicked capitalists trying to make money by trusting the news. And of course you have the Xinhua in the mainland, and that's presumably a warning to everyone what could happen if there was a Taiwanese Xinhua to come about.
Okay.
I totally agree with you. That's why I mentioned the role of education. A lot of journalists in Taiwan, of course, are trained in corporate journalism schools. And the first thing I learned when I was at journalism school in National University was balanced reporting. Today Victor has been accused by person B about certain wrongdoing, of course you have to listen to person B, but you have to give Victor a chance to speak out his mind, to defend himself. That's a basic principle, golden rule. But unfortunately, in terms of practice, journalists in Taiwan or in many parts of the world have failed to do that. And the second one is, of course, individuals being lazy, so they just copy the press releases. The third one is a structural problem that the former dean of the journalism school in Berkeley pointed out. It is actually cheaper to make some very soft entertainment style news instead of hard news. And in terms of saving money, which is considered from a structural level from the newsroom editor, that can also further contribute to the problem.
Yeah, I would say that the television news in Taiwan, the level of journalism is a disgrace. When you think about the struggles that journalists had to go through in order to reform the media, have freedom of speech and freedom of publication, and yet Taiwan's broadcast media has degenerated to such a point where the world, there is bombing campaigns going on in there are bombing campaigns going on in Libya, and the top news story on Taiwan television is Lady Gaga's tour of the island. And it's just dreadful.
Can I also ask, anybody can answer this question? I want to present a question. Some of the panelists mentioned about the 24 hours rolling news. Everybody is doing it. Everybody is doing it. BBC is doing it. CNN is doing it. The Taiwanese TV station is doing it, even though sometimes you don't know what they are talking about. But it's a costly business. Running a TV station is a costly business. So if, let's say, this company failed to buy it because, it's a monopoly. Some other company come in. They still need big money, big investment, right? So end up, it will be a big rich guy to buy the media. So what's your thought? What's your thought?
Well, if it gets to the point, whereas every time I turn on the news in Taiwan, that all the journalists are doing is advertising a new restaurant that's opened or a new line of food that's available in the department stores, then that is not journalism. That is just advertising.
But running news station is costly.
You don't find that on CNN and BBC and Al Jazeera.
That's the reason why they don't make money.
It's not about money. It's not about money. It's about providing, if you are a journalist, it's about providing timely, accurate, objective news. And the idea of covering, the opening of a new spa in Taipei is not news. And the people of Taiwan are being...
Or using YouTube footage?
The people of Taiwan are being, they're being cheated out of what they require in democracy.
Let them ask questions. So, yeah, please.
I think the question I'm going to ask is related to these kind of issues. Because what I've seen is, I've only seen the participation of the students, the scholars, and also some of the government officials, but I didn't see a massive participation of the ordinary people. So I think that is like a key questions to this kind of issues that I think the ordinary people should be be educated in sort of like to respect what is the principles of the freedom.
So your question is?
My question is, do you think that the Taiwanese people should be educated more in this?
Who you direct to?
Dr.
Ronsley. There's two Ronsley here. Okay, Lady Ronsley here.
Well, certainly, I think you're right. So firstly, I would say the media reform campaign in Taiwan since the 1980s has always been very elite-driven. And I think somehow, actually, the civil society and the public didn't seem to pay too much attention to that. And so I think actually that's for the campaigners and reformers really have to think about how to make it more prominent and relevant to the general public, because after all, this is a very important issue. And in terms of the other activities, again, very elite-driven, but there has been a sustained media literacy campaign and program going through, actually starting with the school children. Yeah, and even with the public television station, they actually also have these people news. So in other words, going through different workshops, helping 70-year-old community members and students just to pick up camera and very easily and make their own news. And public television will make it online and help you actually to shape that particular news. And it has been very popular. Yeah, but again, when we say popular, anything that's done by public television have to have a quote. For example, their ratings is still under 1%. So really, it's not as widespread as you would hope for. But they are sort of trickle efforts here and there.
Thank you.